Welcome to Tailings Talks. In this three-part series, we'll cover critical aspects of tailings management and explore the ongoing balance between safety, sustainability, and operational stability in the industry. Let's dive into today's conversation.
Hi, folks. My name is Ian McKechnie. I'm the lead product manager for Hatch's Tailings product. I'm here today with Raf, who will be exploring some topics relevant to our industry and speculating a bit about the future.
Thank you very much, Ian. I'm Raf Davila. I'm the Global Director for the Tailings and Mine Closure Practice at Hatch. I sit at the office here in Mississauga, and we have several teams around the world working at Hatch for the mining industry mostly. Thank you for being with you today, and hopefully it goes well.
So from your perspective, what differentiates a good system that helps bring the signal out of the noise versus systems that might be less suited for the task? What are the key aspects of a good system that helps out rather than it's just there or participates?
Quite interesting question. I would say that for us, the system shouldn't be working by itself. Whatever it is, you cannot take out the human factor into it. I do believe that the best system will be the one that works in tune with the people that are actually proficient in making sure that they declutter, that they look to data in a way that can create simple and transparent information and make sure that work in sync. Okay, so to make sure to build layer upon layer of many different systems within an organization just to source some pieces of data from here and there, it's not going to work out. I think to make it simple, the different groups within the organization of the operator will have to come together and make sure that they have to rely on pieces of data that can actually create value for the information, that can work together with their consultants and make sure that the designing is meeting intent at the end of the day. That's what it counts. If it meets intent, if it makes sure that everything is going to be working from the dewatering circuits to the transport, to the storage, to the water management of the whole mining operation, then you are making sure that you are working well. But it is system and people working together in a way that they can understand and a way that actually can convey and communicate to society, to the stakeholders, to their board of directors, to everybody, and even to the regulators more, because the regulators themselves, you know what they are doing. It's happening here in Canada, it's happening in South America to my knowledge. The regulators want to have access directly to the data of the instrumentation. They don't want to have any kind of filters. They want to make sure that nobody's lying to them. We are reaching to a point in which we have more data, but there is more reasons for doubt, you see, and that's where I think we need to make sure that we have a transparent way of doing things. And if you clutter that with data, it's going to become cloudier and cloudier.
Absolutely. You even got ahead of my next question, which is around the risks of using Excel as a stand-in for systems, but I think you just answered it. If you envision a world where regulators and communities nearby have access to your data, are you going to give them your raw Excel files? Are you going to give them your working spreadsheets? Or do you need something a bit more polished? I know I would have been very uncomfortable with people seeing my calculations back in the day. Maybe engineers of now are better than I was, but it feels like that system you're describing where you need something that kind of shapes the world and then can present the level of detail necessary to each person using it. But I love that connection to the verticality of the organization. Tailings is so rare in that it's one of the very few topics that gets attention all the way up the chain by design because of the criticality of that risk and the importance of managing it correctly.
It is. Now you've touched a good point at the end of your question, which is tailings management, as you say, because of the risk, because of the consequence at stake in many of these mining sites that we work, that at the beginning maybe they were alone and left in the wilderness, but as time goes, towns actually start to bubble around them, and then you have a different situation than when you started. That's happened not only in mines, but in other parts of the industry, by the way. But it is something that it is relevant. So yes, with tailings management, we need to have a clear way, a clear path, so that the engineer of record can actually communicate, if need be, to the CEO of a company. That's something for sure. And addressing your specific question before that, how we make sure that we deal with that aspect in a true fashion with Excel tables. I don't think that, especially today with the advent of artificial intelligence, we are every time left more to something that can be actually we make sure that it can be controlled and known every step of its way. Excel tables have been quite a good tool for engineers, and we will continue to use them. There's no question about that, because where an engineer starts putting their thoughts, it's in a kind of framework that he himself or herself can understand things. Okay, but when it comes to be sure that it can be audited, can actually someone else can see it, that doesn't become a black box.
So in an earlier conversation today, we were mentioning some folks out there might think, hey, like, I've got piezometers, I've got extensor, I've got some flow meters, I've got INSAR, I've got these things. I know what I need. I can draw a full circle around all the stuff I have, and I'm going to do it myself. So I'm going to plug these things together. I'm going to build my own thing that does what I need, and that will cover my risk, and that will take care of me. You suggested that you might have some advice for people that might be thinking that's enough. What are the risks in kind of taking it the go at your own, develop the smaller subset of systems for your own operation?
Well, if you understand the framework as how the tailing systems can be audited today, it is a set of different entities, if you will. You have obviously a designer of record, you have an engineer of record, you have a tailings storage facility engineer, and you have the risk owner, you have the owner of the structure itself. Then you have something that is called an ITRB, which is the internal review board, okay, or but it more than internal. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's independent. It's to be autonomous, and that is the key thing for any system, I believe. It has to be flexible enough, but it has to be at the same time autonomous and auditable. If the regulator doesn't believe that your systems can be auditable, I go back to my previous answer to your question, then it becomes difficult. That is one aspect. So if an operator wants to build a system that is on their own, there's going to be a perception in my mind by the regulators, by the board of directors, that it's not truly autonomous. There's enough of misinformation going around in the digital world, and more you have to make sure that people can come back to the true facts. You have to make sure that what you're measuring is actually what you're measuring, what you're taking care of. In the evolution of these tools, of course, there's involves time, sometimes years.
Absolutely. No, some great narratives exposed there. Increasingly, in the modern world, as technology moves further past us, we find that we have to trust large companies and trust these systems to do their thing. And when the consequence is low for their failure, sure, okay, I don't get my birthday reminder or something. But if I have an issue with my tailings dam, or if I have a disclosure requirement that didn't meet, or a requirement wasn't specified properly, I missed a result, those consequences can be severe, and you require a higher standard for the systems, so that combination of independent systems, but also trust by being able to see the system works, is a great combination and rarely found in our industry. I can share a small anecdote from my own experience. We built a system, come back to the black box comment. we built a system designed to expose a fairly sprawling risk system being used by a company, and to pull the data up and show up on the screen. And 3 months later, we went for review, and executives looked at it and said, "Hang on a second, this is all wrong. Your system is broken. This isn't correct. We're not going to accept your software." And we were able to show them through the principle of trust and knowledge by saying, "This is your actual data that is in your system that you are trusting day to day to run your business."
Yeah.
And you could tell from their faces, like that was the first time they'd sort of realized, oh, this isn't going as well as I thought it was. We've got some additional, we've got to do our homework. We've got to look into this. We've got some work to do. But they had so many levels between, and they were so far separate process that they had missed some underlying instability. Now, thankfully, they covered it off quite well, but it's the importance of being close to those topics that you're actually managing that a real system will bring out.
It is not an exception, Ian. As I know,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a rule actually in the mining industry. When you put together all the data, and the key thing is again the transfer of data into information, and then what happens with that information when it starts being brought up into the higher echelons of the organization. People are aware of their jobs in the organization, and it's a quite difficult situation for insiders, from someone that is within the organization, to throw to the bosses, as I said to them, the executives, the bad news. And more frequently than not, failures of tailings facilities have happened because of that. And because people within the organizations of the mining companies, they didn't have, I wouldn't say the courage, but they had truly a fear of putting together the information, the real information, to the executives. So when independent comes, when it's seen from a different perspective, when actually the facts are put in front of those same executives, that's when your that point of realization comes to, that you've just described this. And then so from my perspective, if you have a system that is consistently auditable and independent, and it can actually deliver the bad news to the executives responsible for the company, and above that to the board of directors, and above that to the stakeholders, especially the external stakeholders, to the communities that they have to work in their surroundings, to the regulators, to society in a whole, then you are making sure that you are actually dealing with things in a much more comprehensive manner. It doesn't stop at instrumentation. Yes, instrumentation gives you a lot of data, which can be good or bad. Depends on how the instrument has been even installed. Okay, but they do have something that's important in what we do, which is marking trends. Okay, trends on how you deal with rheology in the watering circuit, or how you are dealing with the moisture in the production of filter cake, or how you're transporting the same type of material at different consistencies, or how you're dealing with it in the storage facility, either as an impoundment or as a stack. That in itself, together with this remote sensing, from the taking advantage of satellite, the satellite framework that we have today, it does make a difference for everything. Because if you put all those trends together, if you actually make sure that you have seen the problem from the different angles, either directly or indirectly, with many engineering systems that we have at hand today, well, you can actually tell the executive you are in a better way dealing with this risk or not. And taking that kind of curtain out of their eyes, it's actually it is the step in the right direction.
Absolutely. No, it's when you're speaking truth to power, you better bring facts, and systems are good at providing that.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope it shared useful perspectives and sparked new ideas for advancing safety and sustainability in tailings management. Be sure to tune in for the next episode, where we will continue exploring the challenges and solutions shaping the future of our industry.